I'm not with it, not even a little bit. So I want to thank you all for tuning in today. Thank you all for online for listening and everything. You were tuned into The Divide with Marcus C. Williams. Make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe. Help us get the message out there. Share it with your friends, your family, the people up the street, the people down the street. Even share it with your neighbors and the people that you don't like. Share it with your enemies, okay? Because they need to have these important conversations too. Now, let's get into it. Hit that like, share, and get it out there because it doesn't cost you nothing. Now, as we're talking about stuff that's going on in society, there are a lot of things that we can't control. We know that. We've got stuff going on internationally. We've got stuff going on in the financial system. We've got stuff going on in all types of different branches of government that we're not able to control. And it leaves a lot of people with no hope, no view of the future, no ability to believe that they can really make a difference or see a difference. And that's something that is very concerning to a lot of people. It ends up making people turned off completely from politics and generally feel like they're stuck in a dystopian hellscape. You know, and we're not there yet, but we'll get there if more people don't start pitching in and getting active, right? So we see what's going on. We see the problems that we are experiencing in the world. We're like, well, I'm not able to change anything. Well, the first thing that we need to change is we need to change that mindset. The mindset of, oh, well, me, I'm an individual. I'm not able to change anything. I'm not able to do anything. That's not true. You can. You have power as an individual. Your power is in getting active locally, right? So you can go to your city council, your town council, county ledge, depending on where you are, you know, and you can actually work to start making a change, making a difference by listening to what's going on, seeing what's going on. And it's not just that, it's the school board too. And I was just talking about the education, so I want to get back into the education and the critical thinking and the reasoning. A lot of people right now don't understand that the critical thinking and the reasoning skills and basic logic have been taken out of schools, and it is all intentional. It is completely intentional. It has been done by the people that are in power, the school boards, the departments of education and stuff, to keep the people under their foot. It's just a way to keep people, to make sure that they're subjugated underneath the boot of the government. That's what it is. And we need to realize that there are so many people that are so fast to be like, oh, well, you know, we need more money for the school districts from the government. We need more things from the government. Do you? This is my question. Where I live in Rochester, New York, we have the second most funded school district in the nation, $1.4 billion. I believe it's 1.2, and then there's some extra monies there. Now, this is a good question, right? Like, there's a lot of money. We're spending almost $44,000 per child, right? Depending on how you calculate it, you can get between about $35,000, but really after all of the extra stuff that goes into it, it ends up being about $44,000 per child, per child. What are we doing? What are our returns? We've got the second lowest returns in the nation. So I put that before you guys, that this is all intentional. And it's a way to drain resources and tax money from the people, okay, to keep the people down and to keep them in just, what would you call it? Austerity type measures, right? So if you're not able to, if all the money is being siphoned away from you and it's all going through your taxes to the government, then you have less money. And if you have less money, you got more worries. Because your worries are from the day-to-day travails that you're experiencing every single day, that you're just trying to fight to survive. You know, you're barely making ends meet. I was watching a monetary conference the other day, and they were talking about how most people that are making $500,000 a year, now that's a lot of money to me, you know, $500,000 a year, soon come, Lord, please. You know what I'm saying? But they're like, most of them are living paycheck to paycheck. I said, well, now that sounds a little obscene to me. That sounds a little obscene to me. Now they were talking about joint filing couples in that case, but I mean, at that level of pay, are both members of the family, both parents working? I mean, I generally would believe that in most cases like that, you generally have one or the other working, but not generally both. But that's a whole separate conversation about how they've destroyed the nuclear family, which we'll get into in a couple moments here. So the government has done everything it can to exert its force and power over us softly over years over years. It's continued to deteriorate both the quality of education and the family unit itself. And by doing that, it actually makes it so that the government can exercise any level of control over you that it deems that it wants to. And you won't be able to do too much about it. You look at it and you say, well, why would they want the people not to be able to have logic and critical thinking? Well, because you're easier to manipulate if you're not able to think freely, if you're not able to have pattern recognition, if you're not able to see what the government is doing to you, then you won't know. And that's how it is. It's that simple. Hit that like button and hit the share button. Help me get the conversation out there, because we're having the conversations in your ear that you need to hear. So as we have these conversations about what the government is doing to us, it's continued systematic, intentional oppression of the people. And as conservatives talk about all of these issues, I think that we don't see very often that a lot of people that are considered to be Democrats, I'm not going to say those that are on the left, but a lot of people that consider themselves just general Democrats are saying that they have the same concerns and same complaints as the rest of us as conservatives. But they've been told and they've been conditioned over and over and over again that more government is the answer. More government is never the answer. Never is, never has been, never will be. Because with more government, with the growth of government, that means that you have less power. That means that you have less authority over your family. That means that you have less money, because the government doesn't make any money, you guys. That's something that we dreadfully need to understand, and we need to figure that out real quick. The government does not make money, okay? The only money that the government has is money that the government has stolen from you. All taxation is theft. And it's ridiculous for anybody to say, oh, well, we need more money for this, we need more money for that from the government. I don't want the government to be spending money on all of these types of things. At most, I want them to make sure that the toilet goes flush and that they pick up the garbage. And depending on where you live, a lot of times that not even that happens. One of the best examples I could give you is the roadways. In many places in the country, the roads are terrible, but it's generally where they have the highest taxes that the roads are the worst. So you mean to tell me you have all this money for roads, but the roads are terrible? How are you actually spending our funds? Where I live in Monroe County, our city has, and I'm going to pop your comments up as you guys are throwing in comments, so please drop some comments and I'll pop them up on the screen. So as we talk about what's going on with just the money for the roads, and again, this is all across the country, but in Rochester specifically, you can tell when you leave out of the city and you go to one of the suburbs, you can immediately tell that you're in one of the suburbs because of the quality of the road. So where is all of this money? There's always all this road work. Never seems to get done. Nothing ever seems to get finished, but there's all of this road work that's going on. Please make it make sense. Okay, make it make sense. We've got this road, I guess they're calling it road preventative maintenance or whatever nonsense they want to call it, where they've thrown down a whole bunch of hot tar and then laid a whole bunch of gravel on top of it. The gravel is all loose, okay? And you have to roll over it with your car. The little teeny rocks are popping off, popping little children in the head. There's dust clouds. Who knows what that dust is doing to your lungs, okay? Perish the thought if you have asthma or allergies. It's terrible. Okay. And they didn't even bother to roll over it with a steamroller. Okay. I've been told that they don't call them steamrollers anymore, but I don't know, whatever they call them. You know what I'm talking about. It's a steamroller. Okay. So it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And we need to understand that if they're doing this to play in our face and tell us, oh, well, look what we're doing. Well, wait a second. You're putting gravel down and tar down. Why aren't you fixing the whole road? Right? Then they'll tell you, oh, yeah, the roads last 10 years. The roads last 10 years. How come you're out here every year fixing it? How come this same pothole that I've named Bob comes back every single season? It seems like our money isn't being spent very well. Our money isn't being cared for very well. These people that are our elected officials continue to take more and more money and more funds from us, okay? And they're the ones that are supposed to be our stewards of our finances. And the best example I can give you in relation to that outside of the roads is the schools. A lot of the education in where I live in New York State, right? Like I said, our city has the worst school district in the nation, second worst, okay? I mean, not that you get much worse than the second worst in the nation, right? Jeez. But we have the second worst school district in the nation. But it's all of the schools in New York State. The quality of education in all of the schools that are run by the Department of Education continues to go down, down, and down. And it's ridiculous. And they're like, oh, let's just throw more money at it, throw more money at it. Our school district here has never passed an audit. Never. As far as I know, never is a real term, right? Like, but from what I know as 100% fact, in the last 30, 40 years, it has not passed one audit. In my lifetime, they end up getting audited like every other year. Okay. And the state audits them and they're like, we don't know where the money went. And the city never audits them because half of the people from the school district end up on the city council or end up on the mayor. And the whole thing is crazy. And we never get to talk about it because they don't want you to talk about it. And they'll tell you to shut up about it if you talk about it. Oh, well, nobody's stealing the money. I didn't say that they're stealing the money, but I guarantee you that they're stealing the money. Who's stupid? I'm not stupid. You know what I'm saying? You must be stupid to think that I'm going to believe something that's so dumb. You know, don't play in my face. But again, this goes back to the quality of education and why they don't want you to have reasoning abilities and logic. This is why they don't teach you it. It's not a mistake that they don't teach you real financial education. Why don't they teach you real financial education? Well, because if they taught you real financial education, you might actually be empowered, right? You might be empowered. And then if you were really empowered, you wouldn't have to rely on the government so much. And they can't have that because if you don't rely on the government, then you'll be, well, out of their control. And perish the thought that you might be outside of the government's control. That's why you see all of the restrictions that are starting to go into place in many states where they're starting to curtail all of these people who have farms and stuff that are so far away in the middle of nowhere. You can have a farm in the middle of nowhere. You can have your own compound in the middle of nowhere. And all of a sudden, now the DEC or any other of these different departments from the state, the Bureau of Land Management, not the federal government, but they're working on it too. But all of these other people now, all of a sudden, they're flying all of these drones over people's houses, right? You're in the middle of nowhere. Why is the government flying drones over your houses, right? Because they don't want you to be able to be independent of the government. They want to see what's going on. It's also one of the reasons that they're pushing all of this stuff with ORES. If you live in New York State, you might know what I'm talking about if you're in the suburb or in the rural area, where the Department of Environmental, what is it? I don't know. It's the Greenification Department. I forget what it stands for, right? Like where they want to greenify and electrify everything. So now they're forcing people to put solar panels on land, even though the cities and counties and the townships are saying, no, we don't want them here. They're forcing them to do it anyway. In our state, our governor, I call her the high priestess, Kathy Hochul, okay? She is out here locking up our water resources where they're making it so that private companies are in charge of these water resources. And they're like, oh, well, it's just so that they can protect them so that they're not used for anything else. You're giving it to private companies? Who's stupid? Who's stupid? You're far planning in the future for some way for you to get some money back from that investment. And you're also at the same time locking up our water reserves so that you can hold them against the people under threat, okay, which I consider terrorist threat, okay? Because the government ain't nothing but a big old terrorist, okay? When you do something like that, you're holding back water from people. We see the issue with farmers in the West. Okay, they won't let them get the water that they're supposed to be allocated and all types of stuff. They've got terrible water management and all types of things going on. And you have to realize that these people are not incompetent. They are not stupid. They know exactly what they're doing, but they expect you to be just stupid enough that you won't see what's going on. And it's really, really serious. And we need to have these conversations because, again, it goes back to the education. Why don't they want you to have logic and reasoning? Why don't they want you to actually be able to say, okay, well, this looks like this, and over here, these things kind of match up and they kind of align. They kind of might be working in tandem, you know? And when it comes to that, I'd say something like, I believe that George Carlin said it best. George Carlin said that they're all part of one big club and you ain't in it. That's what it is. And a lot of people get it together and they say, oh, well, it's this party or it's that party. The government, the federal government, the state government is a bureaucracy of abomination. And I stand by that. The only thing that they do is grow bigger and bigger and bigger and set more and more and more of your tax money away from you. And you can spend your money better than the government can spend it because clearly they can't even fix the roads and they can't do nothing about the schools, but they control the education and they control the money for the education. Who's stupid? You understand what I'm saying? So these are the conversations that we need to have. But they don't want you to think. They don't want you to reason. They want to turn us all against each other because, oh, well, you're Democrat, or, oh, well, I'm Republican, or, oh, well, the Donald Trump, or, oh, well, Joe Biden. I don't think half the people know the history of Joe Biden that are Democrats that were like, oh, he's so great. Y'all don't know who Joe Biden is. Y'all don't know that he was best buddies with Robert Byrd and Strom Thurmond, okay? One of them is the head of the KKK, used to be the head of the KKK. He did the eulogy Biden did the eulogy at his funeral. Like, this is crazy. Like, y'all don't know who this man is. Like, that man was a monster. He's the one who pushed the crime bill for the 1994 crime bill for the mass incarceration under the Clintons. Y'all don't know who this man is. And I don't believe that you know who this man is to be repping him so hard for anybody to say, oh, well, yeah, well, you like and you support Biden, so we got to be enemies. No, I don't believe that that is true. And the same thing can be said with Trump. Okay? Like, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm going to say something very controversial right now. So hit that like, hit the share button, drop some comments in the comments. I'm popping your comments up as they come in, and every comment helps the algorithm a little bit. So share this out there and definitely comment and definitely hit the like button. So I'm going to say something real controversial. I believe very firmly that Donald Trump is not a Republican and he has not a conservative bone in him. He is a old school, traditional liberal, not what this new liberal nonsense is. He is a classical liberal, okay? And he is a populist. He is not conservative at all. It just so happens that a lot of the policies that he's carrying forward actually are things that any conservative would support because it's beneficial for our nation. It's beneficial for our cohesion as a nation. It's beneficial for our economy as a nation. It's beneficial for our defense as a nation. And if you go back and you watch the history of people like Bill Clinton or even Hillary Clinton or even Chuck Schumer from the 90s, they say stuff that Trump is saying now. And they're like, these are the same people that get on the TV now and they say, oh, no, Trump is terrible. He can't say that. But I got a video from 1992 of you saying something way worse than what he said about the same topic that he's talking on now. Remember, you got Hillary Clinton and all these people, Chuck Schumer marching out here talking about, oh, well, he shouldn't be doing anything to Iran. But all of them were like, oh, well, Hillary Clinton's famously in many interviews talking about, oh, well, if I get to be president, we're going to go blow up Iran. Right? And this was when she was running for president, but also when she was in the New York State Senate. Can we have that conversation? But that might be too much like right, and you might have to actually use some critical thinking there. This is a real serious issue. And as we have these important conversations, more people get to understand that, well, maybe all of these dots aren't seeming to connect that they try to get us to connect. Maybe the pieces of the puzzle don't actually go where they're trying to say that they do. Maybe we have more in common with the people on the other side of the aisle than other people actually think. I believe very firmly in that, and let me be very clear. I am very conservative, right? Like, I am very conservative. I am very traditional. I'm very constitutionalist. I believe in small government. Big government sucks. The government needs to be shrunk at all measures, okay? And I'm very strong on the Constitution. But what I see when it comes to the Democrats is that most Democrats don't fall into this far left faction. However, the far left is definitely influencing the minds of a large portion of the Democrats. And because of that, a lot of Democrats don't want to hear what you have to say. They don't want to conceive something that might make them second guess what they already believe to be true. And again, that goes back to cognitive dissonance and consensus bias, where all they are hearing is an echo chamber of people that are sharing the same thoughts, sharing the same views, and they can't even defend their values and principles. I was at an event the other day, and I was talking to somebody, you know, they completely, they're left, right? You know, and they didn't like what I was saying, right? So of course they didn't like what I was saying, because what I was saying made sense, right? But they didn't like what I was saying because they didn't understand, because they didn't have any background on what I was saying. They didn't have enough information to understand why I stand where I stand, to make an actual determination on what we were talking about. In this case, it was automated traffic cameras, which are nothing but government surveillance, which is nothing that I want anything to deal with, which I'm sure that the majority of the people don't want anything to happen with. So this is, and as we talked, we had good conversation, and I brought them a little bit around to understand why I stand where I stand. And they were like, oh, you know, that's really makes a lot of sense. You know, I misjudged you, this, that, and the third, da, 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 da. Again, this is because of being stuck in an echo chamber and not being able to hear anybody's thoughts or reasoning outside of your own. So this is something that's very, very, very important. We need to get that back in our society. It's been completely lost. Hit the like button, hit the share button. It don't cost you nothing. Get this message out there. We're having the conversations you need to hear. You are listening to The Divide with Marcus C. Williams on WRFZ 106.3 Rochester Free Radio. We are here in your ear having the conversations you need to hear. Let's jump back into it. So as we have these conversations, I know we got a lot of comments coming in. Keep the comments coming, you guys. I'm going to try to pop up as many of them as possible. We got a ton of comments coming in. Keep commenting. It helps a lot. And I'll pop up. I see you, Ms. Shakur. I'm going to pop off and hit somebody else because you got some comments there, and I'll come back to your other comments. So as we continue this conversation, we have a lot of stuff going on in our nation where we've got it to the point where nobody else can have an opinion or a thought or a point or a reason or whatever. Somebody's in the comments going off on Donald Trump. Why? The conversation isn't about him. See, this is the problem. People get stuck in this cycle, in this mentality of, oh, well, it's this person. Oh, well, it's that person. Oh, well, this person bad. Oh, well, that person bad. I'm trying to sit here and tell you and explain to you that it is the whole machine that is bad and that is against us. And somebody's like, oh, well, F Donald Trump. He's this, he's that, da, 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 da. He's this, he's that. Did I not just tell you that Joe Biden's best buddies with these KKK? No, look, not even, it's like not even, you know how some people be like, well, such and such, their great granddaddy was with these people or those people. No, this was in the last couple of decades, okay, well recorded, that Joe Biden was homeboys with Robert Byrd and Strom Thurmond. If you guys don't know who they are, terrible people, okay, not as bad as Lyndon B. Johnson, but terrible people, okay, go look them up. Okay, like it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Another thing that we have that's an issue is that when we get too distracted by whoever is in the presidency, we forget that the majority of our issues are on the local and the state level. Almost all of my issues that I have are on the state or the local level. I've got very few issues with the county ledge, a little bit, you know. I don't like some of their movements, some of their budgetary allocations, but most of my issues are with city council, their policies, their budget, and the state level, their policies, their budgets, and their legislation, especially their legislation when it comes to so-called criminal justice reform, which is destroying our neighborhoods and our communities. But we can't talk about that because if you talk about that, oh, well, we don't want to put criminals in jail. There was a car chase the other day and like 5 people got hurt and 1 person died. Tragic, right? But these people had stolen this vehicle, leading the state troopers all on a crazy car chase. Now, in the city of Rochester, they can't chase you, right? So that means we got all of these crazy people driving up and down our streets, causing all types of havoc. I call them criminal terrorists because that's what they are. It's crime and they're terrorizing our communities. They are criminal terrorists and all of them need to be in prison. I don't think that they need to be in jail. Let me be very frank. They don't need to be in jail. They need to be in prison. Okay? Because there is no sense in the nonsense, right? And what does Ecclesiastes 8:11 tell you? It tells you, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't remember it offhand, but it tells you essentially when a crime or a negative act is not expediently punished, then it is fully set in the heart of man to do evil. Ecclesiastes 8:11. Go look it up. KJV, y'all. Okay, go look it up. But here's the deal with that. We see them running amok, and people are out here defending the criminals, talking about, oh, well, they shouldn't chase the criminals. What? I want them to chase all of them. Matter of fact, I want them to chase them all into the lake. Like, are you serious? Like, what are we talking about? I don't just want them chased. I want them chased. I want them caught. I'd prefer to have them flogged in public, but that's not a thing because there is no consequences for this and what's going on. But again, a lot of this, it's policy. It's policy. And people don't even think for a second that, oh, this behavior is encouraged by these terrible policies. And I believe that it's very, very important that we actually look into what's going on and say, okay, I see that this is affecting this. But again, it goes back to the logic and it goes back to the reasoning and it goes back to the pattern recognition. And again, they don't teach this in schools anymore, and it's all intentional. So all of this goes together. But like I said, my issues on scale are not with the federal government. It's not with the federal government. It's not with Trump. I don't know. That dude seems to be doing some things, and for most of the things outside of his crazy mouth, because he be saying some crazy stuff, y'all. Even if you love him, you know he be saying some crazy stuff. Okay, but outside of that, most of his policies and stuff are pretty sound. You know, like, look, I'm a Black American. Okay, I'm a Black American. You know where they're putting most of those illegal aliens? In Black communities. You know where most of those resources are being reallocated from for the illegal aliens? From the underserved communities, from the middle class communities, from the impoverished communities. So when Trump is like, oh, we got to get everybody out of here. Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. I support that. You know who else used to support that? The Democrats. The Democrats. Barack Obama. What's his name? Clinton. And even Joe Biden years ago. Okay. Honestly, I don't think Joe knew what was going on during his administration. So I'm not going to say that he didn't care about immigration when he was in office, because I don't even remember that I've actually heard him talk on it. You know, that's another weird thing, you know, and I watch the news and the White House press conferences and the president conferences a lot, you know, but now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think I've actually heard him talk about that like that, which is now very interesting to me. But regardless, all of these illegal aliens are coming into our communities, pushing Black Americans out of our communities. And then people are like, oh, well, the white people are complaining about them. The white people are racist for not wanting them in there, for not wanting them to be in the country. The white people, I don't want them in the country. You sound dumb. I don't want anybody that's not American here in the country taking resources from American citizens. We got all these homeless people outside, 2,000 of school-age children. Let me be very clear. In my city is less than 190,000 people. We've got about 2,000 homeless of school-age children. I believe it's 2,400 roughly. And we have an increasing, growing homeless population. And you're telling me you want to make us, we're a sanctuary city and we need to help all these illegal aliens and all of this and all of that? Who's stupid? What about these homeless people? You know, I was just out doing some homeless stuff yesterday, giving out food and stuff like that, man. All these homeless people, man, American citizens, man, who's doing anything for that? In New York State, they just allocated $3.2 billion for illegal aliens. So when you tell me you want to increase the school budgets and give more money to the kids, $3.2 billion for illegal aliens, again, not for refugees, again, not for people that are coming in legally, okay, for illegal aliens in our state budget. Again, not the federal government, in our state budget. Okay, so I got some issues with Trump. I got some issues with some of the stuff that he's got going on, mostly to deal with Palantir and the PayPal mafia and the Palantir mafia. Okay, even though they got a little bit of overlap between the Palantir mafia and the PayPal mafia, but I'm not a fan of a lot of that that's being integrated into the government because, again, government surveillance, I'm not for it. We're not doing that. I'm completely against it. But it starts here on the local level. Our local government is trying to, they got these crazy people out here talking about automatic traffic enforcement. I'm using air quotes if you guys are on the radio and you can't see me. Automatic traffic enforcements. It's crazy. We used to have red light cameras. They got rid of the red light cameras because they said that the red light cameras were discriminatory. They were put in too many neighborhoods that were overabundantly minority neighborhoods and this, that, and the third. I don't care why they got rid of them. They got rid of them and that's all that I care about. Okay. So now they're trying to bring them back and they're like, oh, well, it's not red light cameras because now it's speed cameras too. Now it's driving cameras too. Now it's all these other analyzations and license plate readers and all of this and all of that and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So you're pushing a government surveillance apparatus here locally because you're saying, oh, well, it's going to help everything. It's going to make things better. I don't want that. I don't care. I don't want to give up my liberties and freedoms for the false sense of temporary security. You know, Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, George Washington, these founding fathers and many other ones warned us about this. Thomas Paine, like, are we serious? Adam Smith even, you know, even though he does a lot of Wealth of Nations and all that stuff, you know, but it's really, really interesting. It's really, really interesting. Somebody says Black children are suffering from it in my community. That's right, because they're pumping all of these illegal aliens into our communities. I have a friend, she does a lot of stuff. Matter of fact, she's running for mayor in Chicago right now. Okay. It's hopefully I can get her on an interview in a couple weeks. So we'll see about that on our other show, The Elephant in the Room. So if you're not following right now, hit the like, hit the share, and hit the follow button. Make sure that you are subscribed, okay? Because we got a lot more content coming out real soon, and you're going to love it. So a lot of what we've got going on with these illegal aliens, like I was saying in Chicago, they done moved them all into the Black neighborhoods, whole tenements, okay? Projects, if y'all don't know. Whole project buildings, they got full of illegal aliens. Why? Aha, now you got to ask why, right? Well, because these places are being funded by the government. Wait, you mean the government is funding these illegal aliens to take over these buildings when they keep telling us we're in the middle of a housing crisis, but they've got spots for illegal aliens? How does that work out? Somebody make it make sense. It's ridiculous, you know, but you can't make sense out of the nonsense, and that's all intentional. Again, that's why they don't want you to be able to have critical thinking. That's why they don't want you to have pattern recognition. That's why they don't want you to be able to actually talk about anything with anybody else. It's really, really serious. So we have these other issues that are going on right now. Somebody says Blacks suffer first and foremost. That's the truth. That's the truth. And to piggyback on that statement, okay, you guys, I know a lot of my audience is not Black, but this is important to understand because Black Americans are only American. All of these foreigners, all of these other melanated people that look like this but aren't Black, they're not Black Americans. Black Americans have one country, one nation, And that is the United States of America, no matter how much they want to say, oh, well, originally you're from Africa. Oh, well, everybody is originally from Africa, apparently. Out of Africa theory, you guys are familiar with it, I'm sure. Okay, my family doesn't trace our lineage or heritage back there. We go back to before the 1700s here in the United States, in the continental mainland. So you explain it to me. Like I'm 5, tell me that we're from somewhere else. We're not, we're from here. Now, to that point, there are no people that are more American than Black Americans, right? So when they are purposefully targeting Black Americans, they are doing it to unweave and ravel away the fabric of American society. That's why they try to turn white people against Black people. That's why they try to turn Black people against white people. Because they know that if they can separate us, okay, we're like the fabric of the flag, all interwoven together. But if they can separate us, if they can divide us, they know that we'll start to wither away. You know, the flag will start to unfurl. Okay, it'll fitter away. And they know this. And this is very, 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 very serious. And you see the systematic attack on Black Americans. Why? We were the second largest population into the 90s, right? Now we're the fourth largest population. Make it make sense. How'd that happen? It was intentional. It was intentional. Now people are worried, oh, well, the white race won't be the dominant race. First of all, they done tricked everybody into thinking that they're white, which is a much larger conversation. How many of them are actually what would be considered WASPs? You know, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants that would be considered actually white Americans, right? Like most white Americans that are determined to be white right now have foreign nationality not too far, right? Most don't predate the Civil War. So you also have to ask yourself, well, why is that? Why did they want to do that? Because again, it's about watering down America. Now they're like, oh, well, the whites won't be the major population in the US in the next couple of years. Well, wait a second. So they've kicked Blacks off the top of the list. Now they're kicking whites off the top of the list. I need you to hear how this is. They kicked Blacks off the top of the list is the population. Now they're going after the whites. This was a systematic deterioration and erasure of the American population. This was done intentionally to wither away the culture and the lineage and the heritage and the shared history of our nation. This was all intentional. It was not by mistake. It was not by mistake. And this is very, very, very serious. Okay, very, very serious. And we need to have more of a conversation about that type of stuff because people don't actually take a second to think, well, how did we get to this point? Now we've got all of these people that are in control of the Democrats and on the left that are pumping all of these illegal aliens into our communities, into our neighborhoods, into our countries. And now we've even got Republicans, 20 Republicans pushing what they're calling is the Dignity Act. Okay. I call it the Deterioration of America Act. Okay. But what it is essentially they want to make it so that there is mass amnesty for over 10 million illegal aliens. And then they shut down deportations for another 3 years. What are we doing? Who are you hurting? Who are you hurting? You're hurting us. You're hurting the Americans. Why would you do that? Why? Because now you've created artificial competition that didn't need to be there. You're creating, as I said about the houses and homes, you've created artificial home issues. Now we've got more housing issues than necessary. We got more houses in America than we got people because we got a low birth rate. So what do you mean we have a housing crisis? Who's stupid? A lot of people are going into medical care. What do you call those facilities? I don't even know, but basically nursing homes, right? A lot of people are going into that. Okay, so if all those people are going into that, we've got a low birth rate that's almost below replacement rate. What do you mean that we have less houses? You know what I'm saying? We don't have enough houses. Who's stupid? What, did the houses all blow away last week? Like, don't let these people play in your face. Any city that has had a lot of deportation, okay, from those cities, look into Texas, okay, look into places in Houston and stuff like that have had a lot of deportations from there. The housing market prices have dropped precipitously. They've dropped a lot, Okay. Same thing goes with parts of California. Okay. When they closed the borders, them housing prices started to go down. Then when they started to deport more people, a lot of those prices went a lot down. And we're not talking 1 or 2%. We're talking 10 to 25% in certain areas. So this is important. And we need to have those types of conversations. But they don't want us to have those conversations because that is a shared collective pain that we have, a pain point. Housing is a pain point. Housing is unaffordable for a lot of people. And I encourage you, if you haven't watched Jamie Dimon talk, he just did a talk at, oh my goodness, I believe it was a West Coast Economic Forum or something like that. Please go look that up. He just did it like yesterday, I want to say, maybe over the weekend. And he was talking there. He's the head of the Chase Bank. Okay, if you don't know, he's a money man. I love listening to him talk because he tell you what's going on, and he's really real with it too. So if you listen to him talk, he talks about how the economy is getting much better, and this is good and that's good, and where the jobs and stuff are going, and where the economy is going. You know, he's the money man. He's moving the money. He's putting the money in the investments and the stuff like that. So it's a good guy to listen to. You know, see what's on his mind and what's going on. But he was talking earlier last year about how the illegal aliens are really hurting our economy and the housing market. Because remember, Chase does a lot of loans and stuff like that. So he was talking about just the other day. Now we have the lowest home buyer ship since I believe he said 2012 or something like that. And he said it was because of inflation and these other issues and stuff like that. But again, a lot of this goes back to they don't want to get rid of these illegal aliens, and they put an extra burden on us. And that is a very serious problem, and we need to have a conversation about it. It's very frustrating. And then somebody says in our jobs and in our schools. Okay, yes, Ether Shakur, yes, it is in our jobs, in our schools. In our county, I believe they said last year we had 72 new languages that we never had in our district before. We mostly had English and Spanish. We got the second largest Puerto Rican population in the city of Rochester, where I live, outside of the island. So it goes Puerto Rico, okay? It goes New York City, then it goes Rochester, New York. Okay, that's the size of the Puerto Rican population. So after blacks, who you got? You got the Puerto Ricans, you know? And then who's infected by the illegal aliens? The Puerto Ricans too. Again, taking away resources from the people. Again, these are American citizens. Now, I'll tell you what, that they don't talk about, and this is the other concern, because whenever a white person says, oh, well, it's the illegal aliens, and they'll be like, oh, well, you're racist. You need to point out as a white person that illegal aliens mostly impact Black Americans and Puerto Rican populations, because the Black Americans are most heavily affected by the illegal aliens. You need to point that out. So whenever somebody says, oh, well, you're a racist, you need to tell them that. Tell them, no, I'm not a racist. You're a racist because you're trying to get rid of Black people. And then see what their face look like. Okay? So this matters. Why does it matter? Because now you've got artificial competition for jobs, for funding for schools, for all types of stuff. Because if you've got all these new languages in the schools, the people don't know the language. They can't learn English while they're learning math. That doesn't work like that. They can't learn English while they're learning social studies. It doesn't work like that. So you need a translator. You need extra help. You need all these other resources that are now diverted from the other kids that are already a large number of them in crisis. Like, why are they in crisis? Again, it goes back to the purposeful and intentional failure of the education system for the benefit of the government. But that's, again, so this is very serious. Then somebody said, Ether was saying, the jobs. Yeah, they're competing with the jobs too. Now, I'll give you this. Go check it out. The Congressional Budget Office, they say that, the CBO, they say that by 2030, we're going to lose probably about 25 to 30% of our jobs in the whole country because of automation and because of AI. I think that's a low number. I think it's probably more up to 50%. Now we're talking 5 years away, 4 to 5 years away. We also know that we're coming up on a collapse of Social Security, which is going to be out of money by 2034, which we can't talk about Social Security because they try to make that a political thing every time you talk about we need to restructure Social Security or do something about it. Why is that? Why is that? Because they know that they can kick the can down a little further, a little further, a little further. But we got illegal aliens collecting Social Security and SSI. Why is that? Why is that? Oh, well, they're going to clean up the fraud in the Social Security Department. A lot of the Democrats were like, don't do that. Go looking into things. They're like, oh, don't go looking into the Medicaid and the SNAP benefits, and don't do that. Why? Why? There's so much fraud in it. You know, and it's worse than just fraud, right? Like, it's systematic, intentional rerouting of funds to people that it shouldn't be going to for largely the purpose of politics. And that is a very, very serious problem. And a lot of people don't talk about these things, and we need to. We desperately need to. Hit that like button, hit that share button, help us get the message out there, help more people have these conversations, because we need to have these conversations. So now if they're talking about, oh, well, by 2030, a lot of the jobs are going to be gone, what's going to happen? More people are going to need to be on benefits from the government. Okay, well, more people are going to need to be on benefits from the government. Well, what you going to do about all these 30 million illegal aliens that you got here? Because now they're not going to be finding a job. What are we going to have? Internal scale conflicts over resources with illegal aliens? Something to think about. But again, now we have to fight over resources with illegal aliens, which is unnatural competition that we shouldn't have to be having because of what's going on in our country politically. Well, why do they want that? They want that purposefully to keep us subjugated. And that's what I've said from the beginning of the show. All of this, all of what's happening is all intentionality, you know. And like I said, I am a Republican and I am conservative, you know. And when the White House right now, they get up there, they say, oh, Trump's done this, Trump's done that. I said, where are my mass deportations? Where are my mass deportations? Forget all that other stuff. I love all the other stuff. Great. Fixing the economy, baby bonds, updated Trump accounts. Go look into the Trump accounts. I don't think we'll have time to talk about that today, but that's awesome. Okay. Sovereign wealth fund we're working on. I hope that comes together. It looks like we're really starting to bring in some money from our investments as a country. I'm going to have to look into that more. But we got all of these great things happening, and they're just like, yeah, we got this win. The White House is like, we got this win, we got that win. Now, remind you that the presidency can only do so much, and it mostly goes through and impacts the departments that are in the cabinet. That's a separate conversation. So they can only do so much. A large issue is Congress. Congress is always a big issue. But they're like, yeah, we've done all of these things. I love all those things. All of those things are good things, because why would they talk about bad things that aren't being helpful, right? So there's also a little caveat there, right? But I love those things. They put up something like, I can't remember what they put up the other day. Oh, we're winning or something like that. I said, where are my mass deportations? I was promised mass deportations. Where are these mass deportations? You understand what I'm saying? I see what's coming. The Congressional Budget Office sees what's coming. If we don't get these people out and back to their own countries or wherever, I don't care if you drop them in the ocean, whatever you got to do, they got to go. Because I don't want to be fighting with foreigners for my own country internally. Like, what is going on here? Who's stupid? Why would you bring into your own house somebody that's going to compete with you for the food from your own kitchen, for the heating and cooling from your own house, for your own shower, for your own toothbrush? Who is dumb? And they think that it's you. They think that it's you. They think that it's you. And then somebody says that it's increasing the taxes and it's unnatural. It is. It is increasing the taxes because, again, like I said, with the New York State budget, $3.2 billion for illegal aliens this year. Last year it was $3.4 billion. Okay. But $3.2 billion, our state's like, I don't know what the actual number is right now, but it's really high in the billions. I think it's about $5.4 billion. Don't quote me on that. It might be 7. Okay. Or maybe the projected next year is -7 billion. Like we are in hurt, right? Then they said the other day that the state is bailing out all of these upstate cities that are in debt. Why are the upstate cities in debt? They taxing their people. They ain't got enough money. That means that they're not being fiscally responsible for their citizens. And this goes back to us being taking part in our local government. This is why we need to get involved. We just had the school budget and the city budget here get passed. Wasn't hardly nobody in the meetings. Wasn't hardly nobody watching them online. You go look at the online thread, one person, two people, two views. You know what I'm saying? And so people don't know what's going on until after the fact. And we don't see what's happening. So if the state's giving all of these different cities all of this money, the state don't got no money. Wait. Let's go back a second. The state is giving all of these people money, but the state don't got no money. Where is the money coming from to give the cities if the state don't got no money? Something to think about. Well, that just means that they're going to have to raise your taxes. And what are they doing in Rochester? Last year, they raised the assessments. They're like, we're not raising taxes. We're just raising the assessments. Then they all got reelected. Now they're raising the taxes. But now your taxes are going up even more astronomically because they raised the assessments. So now if your house was $100,000, now they're saying that your house is $200,000. So now not only did you have to pay more in tax, because if you got 4% of 100,000 and now you got to pay 4% of 200,000, that's more money. Don't tell me. Otherwise, you must be stupid. Math don't math like that. Now you're talking about you're raising it to 6%. So now you're talking about now you're even taxing even more. So, but this again, because they don't got no money, because they keep just shelling out money everywhere, and we don't see anything actually resolving from it. This is what's going on. Now the state's going to have to raise taxes. So how does the state raise taxes? Well, the state raises business taxes. If you're a business person, bro, think about this. The average money that an employer needs to pay for an employee is 1.5 the profitability of whatever that paid position is. So let's say somebody's making $20 an hour. That means that person's productivity has to be at least about $30 an hour worth of productivity for the business to survive. Okay. Now, at least you guys, now, if we actually look into that and we actually dig down into that, if you're paying for an employee, in New York State, you got like 50 different taxes you got to pay. Okay. You got the unemployment insurance, which isn't even really insurance, which is just a tax. It's a lie. They need to be sued over that. That's fraudulent. Okay. They got, what's the other one? All of these different employee benefits. I'm not able to think of them off the top of my head, but it's like 3 or 4 other ones that you're obligated to pay as an employer on top of the pay. Not money that comes out of the check from them that goes to the state, because they taking your money as an employee, then they taking the business's money as a business. So they taxing them, they taxing you, and they taxing even more. Then they get you on all of these nickel and dime fees and registrations and all of this and all of that. Don't let these people play in your face. I'll give you the best example I could give you is that we had these stupid toll booths, right? In New York State. Now they're all digital cameras. Don't get me started on the surveillance. Now, those cameras and the toll booths were supposed to be gone in 1994. Okay? 1994. We're talking 32 years later. Why are they still there? Right? Because they originally put up so that they would take the money to pay back for the throughway. Now the throughway's been paid off for 32 years. Now they're still talking about, oh, well, we're still charging you. 30 years over, you're still charging? 30 years over, you're still charging. What are we doing? Where is our money going? Why are you still charging us when you told us you wouldn't? And this is exactly why I tell you guys, don't trust the government. And whenever they tell you that something is temporary, it's not going to be temporary. Like they got these new gas and electric things that they're calling, oh, well, the rates increases are temporary. So that's a trick of language. Stop letting them use this deception of language on you guys. What they're doing is now they're pushing it up. They just push it up today. And they're talking about, oh, well, this is in between the 35% rates that they wanted to push up. But they're still going to push up the 35% rates over the next 3 years. Who is stupid? Is it you? Because they think that you're stupid. Don't let them play in your face. And then they'll be like, oh, well, it's RG&E. It's the energy provider. No, it's not. They only do the delivery. Okay, we're talking about supply issues because the state government has shut down a number of pipeline projects for natural gas, which natural gas is where we get the majority of our electricity from in New York State. Why would you shut down those pipeline projects that would increase the supply, which would lower the cost? Then they shut down natural gas drilling. Why would you shut down natural gas drilling, which would increase the supply, which would lower costs? Why would you do that? Then they shut down a number of other facilities that are power generation facilities. Why would you do that when that would increase the supply? So they've intentionally decreased the supply of our energy in New York State, which we know all you need to know is a little bit of a concept of economics. You don't even have to have taken an economic class to understand that if the supply is low and the demand is high, that means the costs are going to rise. But in the same token, they're pushing for more electrification. So they're demanding more energy. Now, here's the trick. They're demanding more energy supply demand. But they've killed energy generation and supply. Can you make that make sense? Make it make sense. And this is the serious thing that's going on right now. And not enough people want to talk about this because they've gotten people so convinced, oh, well, it's the energy companies. First of all, RG&E doesn't even make the energy because back some years ago, I forget how many years ago, they made it illegal, okay, for the energy provider, the deliverer, to also be the supplier. So RG&E could have had lower rates. NYSEG could have had lower rates because they could have owned more of the actual generation infrastructure. But no, the state did away with that. So now the people that generate it have to be private companies, but we're getting a lot of our energy from Pennsylvania and from Canada. Can I say that again? Because I think you need to hear it. Most of our energy that we're getting, that we should be able to get from New York State and generate in New York State, is coming from Pennsylvania or Canada or somewhere else. Make it make sense. We've got a massive abundance of natural gas here. Natural gas has been good enough for us for ages. It's a clean burning fuel. What are we doing? What are we doing? Why are we shooting ourselves in the foot? Is it intentional? Because they think that you're stupid, that you won't see what's going on, that you won't see what they're doing. It's very, 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 very important. Somebody said RG&E is South American owned. So RG&E isn't South American owned. It's owned by a Spanish company. Okay. It's owned by a Spanish company. It used to be owned by another company, but they weren't ever from South America, as far as my knowledge is. But they're owned by a Spanish company. That don't mean nothing to me. You need to also ask yourself, why are they owned by a Spanish company? How could that even happen to begin with? Well, again, the state of New York doing stuff that disadvantages the people. And a lot of people say, oh, well, the RG&E is making $31 million a year in profit. $31 million a year in profit? That is not no type of money. That is not no type of money. So if you map the math, remember, RG&E and NYSEG, they run all up and down the East Coast. So they cover a number of states and they cover hundreds of thousands of customers, right? So if you map the math, roughly the gross profit, okay, the net profit that they take home, okay, each year amounts to $70. $70 per person. So essentially, if they gave everybody a check for $75 or credit for 70, excuse me, not 75, 70, a check, credit for $70 on their bill each year, that gonna help you a lot? Or is somebody playing in your face, right? Because again, they mislead you to think, oh, well, they're making all this money. Yeah, but if you break the number down, that's $70. That's not even 1 month of electricity. That's not, in most people's bills, that's not even a bite out of their electricity bill. You know, we got people getting $400 or $500 a month bills. You know, you got a small 1-bedroom studio apartment, they charging you $300 a month. What's going on? Again, it goes back to the state and the policies. And the worst part about all of that, guess who actually raises the rates? The state assembly and the state senate. They vote to increase those rates. Then you've got the PSC, which is put in place by the governor and the senate. Okay, they got all their little fingers in there. The Public Service Commission, those are the people who are supposed to look into the energy and stuff like that. The whole thing is a fraud. Okay, it's a fraud, and it's a fraud against the people, not in favor of the energy companies, but in favor of the state assembly and the state senate. And we need to really have a serious conversation about that. It's really, really problematic. Somebody wrote a whole dissertation there. Hi, Earl. I see you talking. You got a lot going on there. Earl, we'll talk later. I'll read that comment later. It's too long for me to read on here. Ether Shakur says that it's intentional. It's 100% intentional. It's 100% intentional. They're playing games in our face. And they think that you're stupid, so they'll distract you with RG&E. I was at a Green Party thing, and the Green Party's gone very far left. I'm not happy with the Green Party because I'm an environmental conservationist. I told you I'm real conservative, okay? I'm a traditional conservative, okay? I'm all about environmental conservation. That's a very important part of the actual conservative standpoint. If you know, the Republicans and the conservatives actually are the ones who started to preserve nature, started the EPA, started the national parks, started all of that. Okay, but that's a much longer conversation. So as we're having this conversation about this, Earl, I already do stuff with Turning Point communities. I know what you're talking about. So when we talk about this issue, we have a number of things going on where they're just distracting us because they don't want the blame to be put on the state level, because then they might have some accountability, because who are the elected officials that are closest to you? Your local and your state level. My elected official's office is for the state level is around the corner from my house. Okay, my other elected official's office is right downtown. I could walk down to his office. Okay. And I do. I do. They know who I am. Okay. They know what my issues are. I do my best to express it to them in a very direct way with solutions. Okay. You got to give these people solutions because they don't know everything, and they definitely barely know a lot. A lot of the times they'll try to say, oh, well, you need to talk to my, what do you call them? Legislative aide. I don't want to talk to your legislative aide. Okay. Your legislative aide is not elected by the people. Your legislative aide is not elected to represent me. Okay, your legislative aide is hired to represent you, not me. You're hired to represent me, period. You represent my district. You represent the citizens in our district. You represent me. Okay, whether I like it or not, that's a whole separate conversation. But the fact of the matter is they represent us and they need accountability, but they don't want accountability. They prefer you look at Trump. They'll tell you, oh, well, you know, the energy prices are going up because of the war in the Middle East. What? Who's stupid? We don't get oil from that area. Who's dumb? And we don't even have any, as far as I know right now, we have less than 2% capacity of oil generators in the state, on the state level for energy, and we don't even use them. So who's stupid? Whose face are you playing in? Please stop playing in my face. Please stop playing in my face. These people, man. These people. And that's what they'll do. They'll tell you anything to distract from them. Right now, their biggest thing is, oh, focus on Trump. Focus on Trump. I live in New York State. Trump can't bust a grape to have anything to do in relation to New York State. Stop playing in my face. Stop playing in my face. Who's stupid? Not me. Okay, don't play in my face like that. Don't do that. So insulting. You're the ones that I have problems with. I got problems with the education system. That's you. That's you. That's not the federal government. That's not even Congress. That's you. That's the state people. I got problems with the criminals not getting locked up. Okay, that's you. You pass the laws that allow the criminals to run wild. Raise the age law. If you're not familiar, go look that up. Essentially, anybody under 18 can't go to jail for no type of reason. It's real crazy and wild. It's crazy. And they can't be held and all types of other nonsense. And my other issue is the bail reform is kind of crazy. Nah, I shouldn't say kind of crazy, because they let out a whole domestic abusers and rapists out of jail. Okay, I remember that last year, maybe it was a year before last. Spanish girl, pretty girl, okay, had a baby. Her boyfriend was beating her up, right? And he went to jail for domestic abuse, okay, because of bail reform, they let him out the next day, even though knowing that he beat her half to death, okay, even knowing that he had threatened to kill her, even knowing that he had a history of abuse, they let him out anyway. You know what he did? He killed her the day after he got out. You understand what I'm saying? Because bail reform. And that's not the only case. Okay, I know many people who have been shot by other individuals unintentionally. Let me be very clear. Unintentionally, not the actual targets, but unintentionally shot by people who are out on bail reform. You understand what I'm saying? Injured. One critically for life. Okay, a former student of mine that I used to teach martial arts to is dead. Dead because of bail reform. Okay? Like, we're not having a real conversation here. That is the state. That is not the federal government. Trump ain't got nothing to do with that. Congress ain't got nothing to do with that. That's these people right here in my state, in our state legislature, and nobody's holding them accountable. We got to hold these people accountable. Don't let them play in your face about no orange man bad. Okay? Don't let them do that. Don't let them do that. Then they'll talk about, oh, the Medicaid is being cut. Medicaid, Medicare, I forget which one is which. Whichever one is the one for the general people. I think that's Medicaid. Okay. But anyway, they're like, oh, well, the Medicaid is being cut. The SNAP benefits is being cut. And they're like, oh, well, you know, that's because of Trump and this and that and the third. Well, no, it's because of Congress. Yes, Trump signed it, but it's because of Congress. Why is that? Because the states' actual own numbers, right? This is important. The state's own numbers say that we are over the 15% threshold of misapplied payments for food stamps and Medicare. Whichever one, it doesn't matter. I'm going to call them both anyway, the same thing. You know what I'm talking about. So over 15%, essentially you're talking about 15% fraud, right? And we were way over it. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was like 20% or something like that, 19.5%. And they're like, oh, well, they're cutting us off and they're cutting people off SNAP benefits and this and that. Hold on. What's actually happening? Well, what's actually happening is they've reworked the way that you have to qualify for it. And remember, this didn't have to happen if New York State would have just given up the records in relation to the actual application of these payments, which is their obligation because the state pays for those services. I believe it's 100% of Medicaid that the state pays for, and it only got knocked down to like 80%. 80% now the federal government is paying instead of 100%. But you've got more than 20% fraud and misapplied payments, and you're talking about, oh, look at what the orange man is doing. No, that's you. That is your fault. That is your fault. Okay, that is your fault. Can we actually talk about that? No, they don't want to talk about that. And who suffers? The people suffer. The general people suffer. And it's a serious, serious, serious issue. But we can't talk about it because if you talk about, oh, no, now you're questioning things. Don't question anything. Yeah, what are they hiding, right? Now, to that point, those records they're obligated in order to get the Medicaid money, in order to get the SNAP money, they're obligated to hold those records and they're obligated to furnish them to the federal government if they're requested. Okay, so the federal government requested them and you're telling the federal government no. The federal government's got to take you to court to get the paperwork that you're supposed to be giving them anyway. Who's stupid? What are you hiding? Make it make sense. Absolute crazy. Somebody said we do the taxpayers. Yeah, we pay for all of this. We pay for all of this. They are threatening our freedom and stuff like that. Because remember, all of this is your money. So all the fraud, all of the misapplied payments, all of the money that's going to illegals, that's your money. That's money that could have been kept in your pocket. That's money that could be going to after school programs for the kids. That's money that could be going to our failing water infrastructure, which they say that they're fixing and all of this other nonsense, but they never actually fix it. They're replacing lead pipes with plastic. Who's dumb? Keep the lead pipes because the plastic ain't going to be better. Don't we have all of these people talking about we got plastic in our brains, we got plastic in our testes, we've got plastic in our ovaries. Like, oh, what? Like what? Like, what are you talking about? We consume over credit cards worth of plastic every year. Like, what is going on? Talking about you haven't put plastic pipes in place of the lead pipes. So I actually did some research into the lead pipes. And I wanted to know because it was interesting to me. I said, well, how can all of these other societies and places and other countries be using lead pipes and not have the same issues that we're having with it getting into the water system? Come to find out that it's because of fluoride, because fluoride actually deteriorates the lead lining and it mixes with the lead lining and it gets inside the body and it starts to calcify the muscles and stuff like that. Now, don't believe me because I'm saying it. Believe me because I'm telling you. Now go look it up. That was a study that was done by the NIH, okay? By the government. There's a study on that. And that's what it says. So all this time they've been lying to us about the lead, and it's really been the fluoride that's been causing the issues, but they don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about that at all. Somebody said, and they promote more drama than the drag queens. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. They do promote more drama than the drag queens. You know what I'm saying? They're like, what do you call them? Petty little bees, right? Like you can't say the stuff on air, so we're not going to get in trouble. But that's what they are. They promote all types of issues and they try to make it so that, oh, well, look over here. Don't look at me. It's like the narcissism. You know what I'm saying? Not narcissism. What's a better word? Well, no, narcissism, sociopathy, and really, honestly, it's probably more borderline psychopathy. Okay, but we know that a lot of these people are sociopaths, and that's very, very evident in what's happening to our people. And we need to have that as a whole conversation. But again, why would they ever want you to have a whole conversation about something that's actually important? Perish the thought. Perish the thought. Somebody said, what is this? Funding for the state's DRI program is $100 million allocated for that purpose in the budget. What's the DRI program? I'm not familiar on that one. Who said that? CKH? I don't know what that program is completely. And it just stopped showing me all the comments. I don't know where all the other comments went. They just went away. Maybe, oh, they loaded back. Okay, there they go. Yeah, it's crazy and it is unfortunate. It is unfortunate. Somebody says, why focus on helping the poor while whales are getting rich, seriously rich through tax deductions and subsidies, while the poor people are getting nothing? So let's talk about that for a couple of seconds while we have a couple of seconds. So it's not the wealthy that are the problem in this situation, okay? It's where our money is actually going. You understand what I'm saying? The government has plenty of money. It's where are those funds going? You're saying you want to collect more taxes. I want the government to collect less taxes. I don't want the government to be as powerful as they are. I don't want the government to be able to bust a grape barely. You understand what I'm saying? I want a government so small that it fits in the palm of my hand and I can crush it if so need be. You understand? So no, I'm not on more taxes. I'm not for saying, oh, well, let's tax the rich and let's do this because we need more money. We don't need more money. The problem is the money. The government's got too much money. And that's why we as a people are suffering, because it's our money. It's our money, you know, and then they don't spend it well. And that's a serious problem. But again, nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about it. Somebody said that's why the violence rates are so high, you know, but it is. Policy and budgetary allocations that are coming out from the state level. And yeah, you're right. People are frustrated. People are frustrated because, again, the state is putting in policies that are hurting us as far as the crime goes. They're putting in policies that are hurting us as far as energy cost goes. They're putting in policies that are hurting us as far as housing goes. They've got all of these new great housing developments, and the housing developments, they're building one-bedroom apartments for $450,000. Excuse me. It costs you $450,000 to build a studio apartment? Who's dumb? You must think that we're retarded. You understand? That's 3 good houses. And then they're like, oh, don't worry, the houses are affordable. They're affordable housing. How is $450,000 for a unit affordable? Okay? How does that break down monthly for them to ever get a return on that, right? Who's stupid? You got people out here paying $2,000 for a studio, for a 1-bedroom, okay, living in a newly developed projects. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Somebody said we need to manage the money better. That's 100% right. But it's our money, and nobody's holding the state level people accountable. I don't like the federal government taxing either. I believe that there shouldn't be any taxes. All of the taxes should be voluntary. And to the person who, I can't remember who it was, Markin Zunick, whatever the name is, okay, every time that taxes have been optional, okay, it has incentivized the wealthy to pay more. Okay, I don't know exactly how that maths, but I believe that it ends up being down in relation to business taxes and the fact that they're not taxed on as much of a portion of their money. So the taxable money actually is something that they're willing to give up. So that is a very interesting fact, and that is not fiction. That is economics. Don't ask me to explain how economics works on that, because I got a whole issue with the fact that economics says that we can't have deflation, otherwise it'll hurt the country, when all I want is my dollar value to be worth more. But apparently I can't get that, because then that would collapse the economy. I've had a lot of interactions in relation to economics on that part. So, but it's really, really bad. And what we're seeing happen again is, it was said, taxes should be optional. I agree, 100%. Taxes should be optional. And that's the direction that we need to go. Like in Florida right now, DeSantis just passed a law that I believe he signed it today, where they're capping the actual housing property tax, because he says that it's making it difficult for new home buyers and people that are new families trying to buy a home. I agree. I said here in Rochester, one of the big things that we need to do if we want to incentivize people to get into houses is all of these subsidies that they're putting out for these big multi-million-dollar buildings and stuff downtown where they don't got to pay no taxes, which is crazy to me. They should be given to first-time local home buyers. Like, are you serious? Anybody that graduates from the city school district, okay, that's gone through high school in the city school district at least, should be able to get their taxes waived for at least 5 years, the first 5 years of them being in their new home that they're buying in the city that they live in, that they in the schools that they graduated from. Like, why isn't that a thing? Like, that is so simple to me, but you know that would be too much like right. It would be too much like right, so we don't do it. So no, it's okay for the typos, I know. But it's too much like right. When they see something that'll actually benefit the people, the government, whether it's local or state or even the federal, a lot of times they don't want to do it, because they know that less government dependency promotes more freedom, promotes more individual liberties and sovereignty, and then you might not like what they're doing, and you might actually stand up against what they're doing. And that's what they don't want. That's why they don't want you educated, like we talked about in the beginning of the show. That's why they don't want you to have critical thinking or logic skills, because that's exactly how they keep you subjugated. That's what it is. That's why they push all of these concepts and all of these policies that are actually hurtful, like the socialism, like the communism, like all of these other things that they tell you are good for you, okay, but they're really not. Why? Because it keeps them in power. You think these people that are out here that know better, that are pushing socialism and communism, okay, are doing it for your benefit because they want you to actually, no, don't be foolish. Don't be foolish. You're allowing the socialism and communism to be pushed because it empowers more of the government. Don't you understand? Socialism and communism is nothing more than a government empowerment tool. Look at every socialist government, every communist government. The government has the maximum authority. And everybody that claims to be socialist or claims to be for communism or Marxism or any type of thing like that, all they want to do is empower the government more and more and more. I don't want to give the government any more power. The government needs less power. That's why the government is harming the people. But anyway, we got to get ready to get out of here. Please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button, get this message out there. This is The Divide with Marcus C. Williams. We are here in your ear having the conversations that you need to hear. We are on WRFZ 106.3 FM, Rochester Free Radio LP. And we will be back next Monday, 2:30 to 4 p.m. Make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube. And that is the Marcus C. Williams channel on YouTube. We'll catch you later. Be blessed and be well. Remember, stand up, speak up, and don't shut up. Catch you later. All right, you guys, I appreciate all of your comments that are coming in and everything like that. And somebody said, let's get rid of the isms. You're right. We got to get rid of all of the isms. It's really a problem. It's such an issue that we have going on in our nation right now. And all of it on all the sides is tooled so that we as the people of America are disempowered by our government. People will say, oh, well, it's the right. Oh, well, it's the left. I need you to understand that all of these people at the top level of government all go to the same colleges. They all go to the same daycares. They all go to the same bankers. They all go to the same vacations. They are all in each other's weddings. These people largely are not for us because we are not in their social bracket. It's about power. It's about dominance. And occasionally you get some people in there that are halfway decent or don't want to kowtow specifically to most of what's going on. And it's a serious, serious issue. It's a serious issue. If you want to support the show on either sides of the screens right there, that's how you can support. We're on Venmo. We're on Cash App, $MW Real, the number one. Venmo and PayPal is at Marcus C. Williams. And you can see it either on either side of the screen or down below, depending on which format you're watching us on. Now, having this conversation is so crucial right now because what I see locally is the government expanding itself and limiting your freedoms. We're limiting your freedoms of mobility where I live and maybe where you live too. You might see all of these medians popping up or them shrinking the highways and the throughways and the streets and stuff like that. And that's a serious and intentional problem. They're doing this intentionally to limit freedom of mobility. Okay, they're pushing all of these surveillance cameras and stuff like that. They've got all of these drones for these different police forces and stuff like that. And it's a serious problem. It's a serious problem, but they're selling it to you as it's a good thing, and it's not a good thing. It's a trap. Don't fall into the trap. And don't fall into the trap of, oh, the division just because somebody thinks differently than me, just because somebody's on the other side of the aisle than me. It doesn't mean that you don't need to have open discourse. Open discourse is the most important thing, because if you can't defend your own idea, then that means two things. One, you don't know it well enough to explain it to actually stand up for it. Or two, maybe you're wrong and you need to reconsider it. But right now we have it where people don't want to have those open conversations, where they hear something and they think that it's something that they don't believe and they jump to conclusions. I said the other day at a speaking event, I said, people really be jumping out a 40-story window to try to jump to a conclusion. Like, what are we doing here? Like, what are we doing here? Like, you believe because I think one way on this or because I'm registered one way on this, that you can't agree with me on something else or that we're the enemy? The government, as much as I love my country, there's nobody more patriotic or loves the country more than me. Okay? Nobody. Okay? And the fact of the matter is I love my country. I love our people. Okay? I love our American people. But the fact of the matter is you cannot trust the government. And it's not just our government. It's all government. And that's why we're supposed to be a small government, a small localized government. And that's why I always encourage all of you to get involved locally, because that is where you can make the difference on the local level and on the state level. But that's why they try to distract you with the federal government. But most of your everyday issues come from the state government. They can either be solved, addressed, or fixed on the state level. And a lot of the other stuff is the local level. Very rarely is it something that's on the federal level, and that's what we need to remember. That's what we need to understand. And that's the message that we need to carry forward. Local government matters. Local politics matters. State level politics matters. And we have to get involved to be the change that we want to see. Anybody that is telling you that, oh, the government should take more taxes, or, oh, the government should be stronger, or we need to empower the government to do this, or, oh, just give up some of your liberties and freedoms because, of safety. It's because of safety. Give up your Second Amendment rights. Give up your guns because of safety. It's because of safety. Just give up your car because it's because of safety. It's because of safety. You don't need to drive so much. It's because of safety. It's because of safety. It's the pollution. It's the end of the world. All of these things like that. They are the enemy of the American people. All of those people are the enemy of the American people. Anybody that tells you anything in relation to expanding the government, they are the enemy of the American people. Okay. I'm not just talking about the Marxists. I'm not just talking about the socialists and the communists, but especially them. Okay. I'm talking about anybody on the left. I'm talking about anybody on the right. Anybody that's trying to expand the government and not shrink the government. They are the problem. They are why we have all of these issues, because you can spend your money better than the government can spend your money. You know how to raise your children better than the government knows how to raise your children. And you know what you need and what your city or town needs better than the state level government. We need to take back the power in our local areas by actually standing up and saying, no, no more. No more. You look at a lot of the ordinances or a lot of the zoning or a lot of the stuff that they won't let you put up a fence. You got to file a permit to put up a fence in your own yard. I got to file a permit to put up a fence? Who's stupid? This is my land. This is my house. I can't put up a fence. I got to file a permit with you. I got to give you money to put a fence that I got to spend money on my property. Make it make sense. Oh, you want to fine me for not having paint on the side of my house because I don't have the money to put the paint on the side of my house, but I've got money to pay for a fine. Don't you think if I had money to paint the side of the house would be painted? So instead of actually offering a solution to the people in relation to things like this, they want to find another way to draw money away from you. They want to find another way to take more and more away from you. The taxes, the fees, okay, the regulations, all of this stuff, it all needs to be trimmed back. And you need to be put back in the driver's seat of your life, of your community, and of your family. That's what I've got for you guys today. Remember, stand up, speak up, and don't shut up. Take action. You guys be blessed and be well. I'll catch you later. Hit the like, hit the share, drop some comments. It helps the algorithm. I'll catch you later. And we got some more episodes of other shows that we're doing coming this week. So stay tuned. Be blessed and be well.